I'm Theo.
And I'm Juliet.
And this is Apologies Accepted.
We offer an entertaining look at some of the big issues in history by examining public apologies of the famous and infamous.
We're looking at politicians, serial killers, actors, and you.
Send us a public apology you would like to make, and we'll read it on the air and give you a chance to redeem yourself, or just get some guilt off your shoulders.
We're here for you. Once a week, maybe more if you're really, really sorry.
This is Apologies Accepted, the
podcast.
And I'm not Theo.
And I'm not Juliet. And we're back. We're back for a while.
We've been gone. We had a little summer break. It did some summer things. Saw some summer people. Had a summer life. And now it's fall. Happy fall, everybody. So, Theo, what's your fall bacon?
Oh, man. We moved. And so all I will do is bitch about moving. Let me not bitch about moving. I'm exhausted. I cannot see straight. I want to burn everything that we own. Why do we have so much crap? And let me share with you my introduction to my neighbors.
Oh my goodness!
As we know, I don't like neighbors.
Yeah.
I think neighbors are like houseplants, and basically they're there, and they don't require conversation, and they take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Right. So
ideally,
awesome.
Yes.
But whatever. We bought the house. We're here for a while, so let's make an effort, Theo. So I've waved at people and walked across the street and said hi and talked to. There's a lesbian couple that lives right across the road, and so nice. Yippee, hooray! Nice conversation there. But I had one neighbor who's next door, immediately next door. And wasn't able to connect with them. But I have a sense of who they are because the realtor who sold the house told me all about like the neighbors and pointed to the houses. And so I know about some things about this neighbor, broad strokes about the neighbor, right? And so I ordered Google Fiber, which has a really good deal, right? Not a commercial. And we're all going to find out why in a hot second. 2 gigs, $100 a month. Great. My internet is crazy fast. Love it. Not complaining one bit. Took a while for them to get out here. They got out here. And the guy who showed up said, there's an issue. And the issue is that the Google service line has been cut to your house by AT&T. And they ran a patch when they came in and installed their own internet. And I was like, none of this means anything to me other than I'm not getting Google. And so what's up? We have to send out a crew, and it's a thing. Fine. Going to be a couple of days. So the crew was this guy. The guy shows up, and it's late, and it's like, I don't know, it was raining, and it was like 7-ish at night.
Wow, that's weird.
Yeah, and he was like, hey, I'm here, and I'm going to do the thing. So I showed him all the stuff and told him what the guy told me. Cut line, AT&T, patch, and the guy, yeah, fine. So he worked on our house for about an hour and a half. And then he said, hey, I have to go over into your neighbor's yard because that's where the central hub is for the neighborhood. And I've got to run a line from there to your house. And this is really complicated. So sorry. And it's going to be a couple hours. And it was dark and it was raining. Okay. And there was thunder and lightning.
Oh, no.
Okay. So it was a night.
Wow.
And I was unpacking boxes. Because I don't know if I told you that we were moving, but I had a bunch of shit that I was focused on that involved my shit in my house, getting it to places it needs to be. So I'm doing my stuff. And my job is not to manage the Google guy.
No.
What the fuck do I know about wires?
Clearly not.
No. How could I? And so, I mean, I could and I should have, because here's what happened. So he parked his truck in my neighbor's yard.
Oh, no.
And then he proceeded to dig up her yard.
Oh, no.
And because it was raining, he had a big tent that he pitched, right?
Are you kidding me?
Only had the roof. It was like a giant umbrella on 4 legs, right?
Yeah.
There were no sides. And because it was dark and raining and thundering, he had a 6-foot tall pole with 4 spotlights on it, all pointed at him, right?
Oh, my God.
And he's digging, and I look out the window every now and then, and I see him digging, and I'm like, all right, fine. And I see his truck, which has the headlights on, parked in the driveway, and I'm like, okay, well, hope you talk to the neighbor, but hope whatever, so. Right? Because their cars are in the driveway, and again, I haven't met this neighbor. And I decided that I deserved a little treat. And I was off that week from work. So I got a little high. Just a little, right? Because it's like, I'm not going to unpack stuff now. I'm just going to move candles around and vases. And is it pretty? Is it pretty? It's so pretty. Great. And then I look outside, and there are 2 police cars parked in front of my house with the lights flashing, right? Again, it's raining and thundering, and now it's like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And there are 4 cops talking to the guy in the yard, who's the Google guy digging up the yard, right?
Oh, no.
And I'm like, of fucking course. Of course, right? And now I know the cops are going to have to come and talk to me.
Oh, no.
Right? And like, I'm a little bit high. So great. Listening to really nice music, very mellow, having a lovely rainy night at home.
Vibes.
Gorgeous. Yeah. Fucking everything went straight to hell. So then there's a knock at my door, and I had already thrown Visine in my eyes, and I was like, they are classy as shit. Fortunately, I was smoking Delta 9, which is legal in Texas, so hooray. But whatever, right? And so it's the Google guy who is Ukrainian. I left that part out too. Yeah, he's Ukrainian accent and probably like early 30s. Very nice guy, right? And he said, I'm sorry, your neighbor has called the police and I have been asked to leave. This has never happened to me before, but I'm going to go. So
yeah, I would too. We
will be back out tomorrow. A different guy will be here and we'll get it resolved tomorrow, but we can't do it tonight. And I was like, did you talk to the neighbors before? And he said, no, but I talked to the police and they wanted to know if I was with Google, and I told them yes, and I showed them my ID and they verified me, but your neighbor said that she doesn't care. And I was like, okay, that's great. And then I closed the door and then I bitched to the air, right? To myself out loud.
Yeah.
Motherfucking, I can't believe you threw the guy off and I'm not going to get my cable, blah, blah, or my internet, blah. Another knock at the door like 2 minutes later. And I open it and there's 2 young girls. And when I say young, I mean 20s, right? And they're like, hi, we're your neighbors. And I'm the neighbor and I live there and I have 2 roommates and we live alone and we're single girls. And we looked outside and we saw a scary man digging in our yard and we got scared and we called the police. And I was like, I absolutely understand that. And I am with you 100%. You should have. Right? Because you go outside to the strange man in the yard in the rain at night, and he pulls out a gun and is like, "Let's go into your house." Right?
Yeah, this is the grave I'm digging for you.
Yeah, exactly. In your front yard under a spotlight, right? But okay, fine, right? Like, I'm really, but yes, right. I do get that, and I fully support it. It's not that the cops were called that I was bugged. It's that after 4 armed police officers stand on your front porch and tell you that this man is a utility worker. Right? Yeah. Doing his job and has every reason and right to be there. And you still say, we're too scared. Make it go away.
That's weird.
Come on. Right? That's a little too. You've never been safer, girls. You have never been fucking safer. This guy is not going to murder you. He is not going to rob you.
Yeah.
Well, okay, probably. Yeah. Sure, there are no guarantees about murder. Right. You are right. Okay. But anyway, so the long bacon story, we'll leave it at that. And then the next day, I lied. The next day, Google came back and the guy dug a 6-foot trench across her yard, leading straight over to mine. But it stops at mine because he just needed to connect the wire. And so now I'm paying to have her yard resodded. Not the entire yard. Holy fuck, where did I just come from? Not the entire yard, just like 30 square feet of it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's really nice of you. I would have said, take that up with Google.
Well, we'll be experimenting.
You'll be taking that up with Google?
I'll be talking to Google about why are you able to dig up yards? Because if I have a future problem, I'm not spending another $300 is what this is costing me to fix my neighbor's yard because I need internet, right? Anyway, brag, America's hero, hard at work, spending money on grass. The legal kind that grows.
The legal kind. Do those young girls own the house? I guess you didn't ask them. Are you the owners?
Oh, I do know the details, yes.
Okay.
But I'll say for privacy's sake, I won't share them. But
that's fine.
The short answer is, there's a family connection. So
okay.
Anyway, so what about you? You've been so busy.
I've been gallivanting around the country. I went to Mendocino sometime this month, earlier in September, I think. And I had mentioned the last time we talked that we were staying at a boutique motel, and I was questioning the boutique aspect of that motel. But it turned out to be a great deal for the price. It was like $200 a night, which is for the Mendocino area, which is like nothing. And they delivered frittatas and avocado toast to the room for breakfast. And it was a nice little, it was a motel, but it was an upgraded motel. So I would say, it's a boutique motel. That's pretty accurate. So if anybody wants to go up to, it's actually in Point Arena, the Wildflower Boutique Motel. I recommend it, and they're not paying me for saying that. So it was nice. We went to the Point Arena Lighthouse, and we went to an art gallery in Point Arena where we bought a print. And I have been wanting for a while now, I've been wanting a sea glass necklace. And I found one that was made by the woman that was working at the art gallery. So she had a display out there, and I bought, it was actually pretty expensive, but it was, I think it's worth it. So of course it's worth it. I wanted it. So, but it was nothing like, some of the expenses you guys might be incurring in the upcoming future. It's not a Rolex watch, for example.
Oh, yes, no.
So then after that, I went to Palm Springs for the memorial service for my uncle who died last month. And that was really nice. He was a Marine, so it was one of those Marine services where I don't know if you've ever been to one, but you go to the National Cemetery, and they have like these lanes that you drive up in your car, and you line up in the lane for your person's service, and then the lead car takes you to the particular area where they've got the ashes or whatever set up, and there's flowers, and there's some dudes who do the 21-gun salute, and they do a little service, and then they invite people to speak. So at this service, a lot of people wanted to speak, so we actually ran out of time. Not everyone who wanted to speak got to speak, but that was fine. It was nice, and then we went to my aunt's for a lunch afterwards. So it was very nice, and we rented a Airbnb in Palm Springs, which turned out to be really nice, and it had a pool. So I spent most of my weekend that I wasn't at the memorial service in the pool. So it was that was my summer right there. It was a weekend in Palm Springs at a memorial service and a pool.
So you guys didn't have an Irish wake?
No, we didn't.
Good taste. That's good taste.
There was no alcohol at the lunch. There was nothing. I was surprised, but it was fine. It was fine. Even though there was no alcohol, it was fine.
Somehow you managed to get through the day.
Managed to get through the lunch without drinking. And then after that, I went to Silver City, New Mexico, where I have a little house. Or my family, to be accurate, has a little house. And went to... my cousin has been living there off and on, I guess, for 5 years now. And she has since built herself. She has an apartment now in the city or the town of Silver City, and the place that we have is outside the town. She's also built a yurt in the mountains. So she spends some of her time in the yurt, some of her time at the house, and some of her time in her apartment. And she's taking good care of the house. We put native plants about 5 years ago. She and I and the landscaper put in native plants in the front yard, and they're all growing up now. And when I was there, a bunch of them were in bloom, and there were a bunch of bees and butterflies and birds, and it was just really nice. So the house has really been improved since she moved in. Not entirely her doing, but she certainly has helped. So I won't give her all the credit, but I will give her some of the credit in that she makes sure that the people who take care of the lawn come every week or whatever to take care of the lawn. So thanks to her, thanks to everybody. And that's my bacon for the week, I think.
That was very juicy bacon.
I feel like more has happened to me since the last time we talked, but if I think of it, I'll bring it up in the middle of the podcast.
Right, yeah, apropos of nothing.
Oh, by the way, yeah.
I stubbed my toe.
So why are we here? We're here to talk about Lauren Boebert, which is...
Boo!
Exactly, thank you. And who is Lauren Boebert? Well, if you don't know, I don't know where you've been, but she's a 36-year-old right-wing Republican congressperson from Colorado. The New York Times has described her as a rabble-rouser, which I think is pretty accurate, and we'll get to some of those details in a little bit. A commenter on the New York Post site, and don't make fun of me for quoting someone who commented on the New York Post site, but they describe her as follows, and I think it's a good description. So they said, Boebert failed her GED exam 3 times. Jason, her ex-husband, exposed himself to teenage girls in a bowling alley and smacked her son around. Neighbors lodged complaints against Mr. Boebert for unruly attacks on another neighbor. Boebert is a loudmouth, hypocritical, pseudo-Christian fake culture warrior who has not done anything to improve the day-to-day lives of her constituents. I think that's pretty accurate. She's currently in her second term after being reelected in 2022 by less than 600 votes against a Democratic competitor. Prior to running for Congress, she and her husband, who's an oil worker and who makes a fair amount of money, co-owned a restaurant called Shooter's Grill, where the waitstaff openly carried firearms, and patrons were invited to bring their guns as well. Sadly for Boebert, Shooter's Grill lost about $143,000 in 2019 and $226,000 in 2020. Not only did it lose money, but in 2017, 80 people who attended a Garfield County fair got food poisoning after eating pork sliders from a temporary location set up by Shooter's Grill and by Smokehouse 1776, which was also partly owned by the Boeberts and which is now closed. The restaurants did not have the required permits to operate the temporary location, and the Garfield County Health Department determined that the outbreak was caused by unsafe food handling at the event.
And why am I not surprised at all?
Why are you not surprised? I mean,
it was unpermitted, unclean.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Freedom.
Fortunately, nobody died in the name of freedom. In 2020, Boebert and Shooter's Grill violated county orders to close due to COVID. Again, no surprise. And it was then issued a cease and desist order from the county. She refused to comply, so the county suspended the restaurant's food license, and the restaurant closed in 2022 when the building owner did not renew the lease. Again, surprise.
And it took the building owner to say, you're out.
Enough of this. Yeah, exactly. She was going to continue, probably.
Of course.
So what does she stand for as a congresswoman? Well, it's more what she opposes, really. She opposes transitioning to green energy. She opposes COVID-19 mask and vaccine mandates. She opposes abortion, sex education, gender-affirming surgery for minors. Now, for that one, I'm not sure where I personally stand on gender-affirming surgery for minors. I think a case could be made either way. A, you probably want to wait till you're 18 to have surgery. B, it may be deemed necessary for emotional pain. So I don't know where I stand. Where do you stand? Do you know?
So I kind of do, but at the same time, like you, same thing, right? Mm-hmm. I would say medical intervention, absolutely, 100%. All the hormones, all the puberty blockers, great.
Yeah.
And I think probably, and it's not so much that I don't believe that people know what their gender is. Uh-huh. It's such a permanent change.
Decision. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't think it should be something that gets decided within a year or a couple of years.
Right.
But then at the same time, I'm not a parent, thank God, that I know of. That's funnier. And I don't know. I have friends who are trans. Friendship bingo, I win. I got it. I got the whole card now. Yay. And while they have not shared their personal childhood stories with me, one of them I have known since they were a child. And I'll just say, I think it's a decision that should be left between a person and their doctor.
Yeah, I agree.
And the parent.
And their parent, if their parent is reasonable.
And the church and the government.
And the church and the government.
Bring everyone in. So I've got no answer. That's where I am.
I think we agree, and that's important. That's what matters.
Yeah.
That we agree,
and that we're right.
And that we're right. And the other thing that Boebert opposes is same-sex marriage. So she's a self-described born-again Christian. And
why? She can't get her own right. I mean, Jesus, lady.
I know. We'll get
somebody
to that.
else a shot.
She has said that she is, quote, tired of the separation of church and state junk, unquote, and argued for greater church power and influence in government decision-making.
Oh, which church, Lauren? I wonder which church. And I don't mean Christian,
church?
I mean hers.
In February 2023, she co-sponsored a bill to designate the AR-15 style rifle the national gun of the United States. Fortunately,
what a horrid woman.
Can you imagine
the gun that's killed more students and teachers than any gun in America? Fuck you, Lord Boebert. Fuck you hard.
The worst. Fortunately, of the nearly 20 bills she's sponsored, none have passed committee. She's also tried to impeach President Biden twice and probably will try again. She's a fan of the QAnon conspiracy theory. And what is the QAnon conspiracy theory? Well, I'll tell you. It's that a cabal of satanic, cannibalistic child molesters are operating a global child sex trafficking ring, which has conspired against Donald Trump. I mean, that's reasonable.
Well, I mean, please.
Yeah.
What else would a cabal of satanic pedophiles do other than take issue with Donald Trump?
Absolutely, because he doesn't stand for any of that stuff.
Oh.
She's known for heckling her Democratic colleagues in the halls of the Capitol and largely ignoring reporters' questions, except to randomly shout, "I love President Trump." Boebert has railed against drag performances for children and claimed that the left was grooming children by exposing them to obscene content. Yeah. And on January 5th, she refused a bag check after she set off the newly installed Capitol Hill metal detectors and entered the Capitol. She did it again on January 6th and refused to stop for a wand check after she set off the metal detector. She called the metal detectors just another political stunt by Speaker Pelosi, which apparently is true if nobody stopped her after she refused the check, which apparently nobody did. They just let her go on. Which, like, hello, why do you even have this security if you're not going to enforce it? It's
or selectively. Right.
Or selectively, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
yeah,
it.
There's exceptions for everybody.
In her personal life, as we've alluded to, Lauren and her husband Jason Boebert first met while she was working at McDonald's at the age of 16 and he was 22. She wrote in her autobiography that they did not break any Colorado laws while they were dating, which is, in my autobiography, I need to have a sentence that says I didn't break any laws.
I mean, I will say that I was 16 once, and I also worked at McDonald's when I was 16.
I know you did.
I did, and it was fun.
Road.
A lot of free Coke and Coca-Cola and ice cream. But there were 22-year-olds around, but I don't think I would have dated one. That would have felt so old to me.
The converse is what worries me, like a 22-year-old dating a 16-year-old.
Well, and then I was going to say I was also 22 once, and guess what? I had no interest in anybody whose age began with a 1.
Exactly. The age of consent in Colorado is 17, which is interesting. I don't know why the age of consent varies from state to state. It should all be 18 everywhere, but maybe I'll become famous trying to get the age of consent raised to 18 in the United States.
Or lowered. You'll be famous for lowering it.
That's right. It should be 12.
12. I was just going to say that.
Well, it's obvious.
It's the only age.
Lauren and Jason had originally wanted to get married 4 months after they met when she was still 16, and they actually drove to the Little White Wedding Chapel in Las Vegas, but unfortunately when they got there, they found out that she had to be 17, so they didn't get married until 2005. But before they got married, in 2004, Jason Boebert was arrested and convicted of harassing and physically assaulting her. This was also the year she had her first child with him. Later that year, she was arrested at his house for scratching his face and chest and trashing his residence. She was charged with third-degree assault, criminal mischief, and underage drinking. The Boeberts, of course, married the following year and now have 4 children and 1 grandchild. She has filed for divorce this year. Irreconcilable differences, not abuse, but we can only speculate. Also in 2004, the year before they married, Jason was arrested after allegedly exposing his penis to 2 women at a bowling alley. Lauren Boebert was also there. Jason Boebert pleaded guilty to public indecency and lewd exposure and was given 4 days in jail and 2 years probation.
And do we know if the what word do I want to use? The penis
Victims?
peekers? Were they, well, okay, sure, victims. Were they adults?
Oh, good question.
I mean, I know they weren't toddlers, right? But
yeah,
like,
they were in a bar. No, it was a
teens?
bowling alley. I don't know. 2 women, it says. So I would assume that they were, but I do not know.
Yeah, they would have said girls had they been underage. For some reason, I thought the 2 women were underage, but
Maybe
I may
they
just be
were.
adding details.
God. I'm just cringing internally at the thought.
I mean, who pulls their genitals out in a bowling alley?
More people than you would expect. Obviously.
One more than I would suspect, yes.
One more than you would expect, at least. In September 2010, Boebert was arrested after a neighbor accused her 2 pit bulls of attacking her dog. She was arrested again in June 2015 for disorderly conduct at a country music festival near Grand Junction, Colorado, after police said she attempted to interfere in the arrest of minors busted for underage drinking and encouraged the minors to run away. She said that they had been arrested illegally because they weren't read their Miranda warning, or the Miranda rights weren't read.
How many times did you fail your GED and you're now an attorney?
I know, right? Oh, my God.
I mean... what's the thing they call that? It's not the Doppler effect, but it's the thing where you think you're smarter than you are.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember.
Yeah, there's like a name for it.
There's a name for it. I don't know what it is.
Then there's no way to know.
There's no way to know. In 2016, she was cited for careless driving and operating an unsafe vehicle after driving into a ditch. She was arrested for this and booked in Garfield County Jail for failure to appear in court on those charges. She pleaded guilty to operating an unsafe vehicle, and the careless driving and failure to appear charges were dismissed. In August 2022, her neighbors in Colorado called 911 after Jason Boebert was accused of running over their mailbox during a dispute. And in December 2022, the teenage son of the Boeberts called 911 to report that his dad was throwing him around the house. They came to the house, and Jason Boebert said nothing physical happened, and apparently they had cowed their son into retracting his report. So I guess the police just took everyone at their word and left.
Well, there's a memoir coming out, I'm sure, soon from that kid.
Oh, I hope so. I hope all the kids write their own memoirs.
Oh, of course they will. They're going to need the money.
Oh, yeah. God. Well, yeah. Huh. She's claimed that she volunteered at a local jail for 7 years working with victims of domestic violence, but attendance logs at the Garfield County Sheriff's Office show that she volunteered at the jail only 9 times in a 2-year period between May 2014 and November 2016. So that's all background, and you can draw your own conclusions about her character. Why we're talking about her today specifically is because 2 Fridays ago, she went to a showing of Beetlejuice, a musical, in Denver, and made a fool of herself again. She started out by vaping in the theater, and a pregnant woman sitting behind her in the theater asked her to please stop. She refused, being Lauren Boebert, and later claimed that she had not been vaping at all, saying on Twitter that basically all she was guilty of was enjoying the show. However, surveillance video later showed that she had in fact been vaping, and in addition was not only singing and using her phone, but cameras showed her blatantly being groped by and groping her companion. So they were warned during an intermission, but the behavior continued into the second act, at which point the 2 were asked to leave. Video also showed the Congresswoman and her companion being led out of the theater by members of the staff. During the confrontation, the 2, of course, made comments along the lines of, "Do you know who I am? And I will be contacting the mayor." They refused to leave the venue, even after an employee threatened to get the police. They did call the police, and once the police officer was on his way, the 2 left. One of the reasons that this is interesting is that her companion was a Democrat named Quinn Gallagher, who is the proprietor of an Aspen bar that has hosted LGBTQ+ events and drag performances. Sadly, the 2 have broken up since this date, and Boebert implied she had no idea he was a Democrat, although a drag performer who I think has performed at his bar said that the 2 had been dating for months.
Yes, and that's a small town, and everybody is aware of everybody else's business.
Yeah.
And so it was not the first date. And I love that Lauren Boebert positions this as, it was our first date. Lady, his hands were all over
Blatantly.
your breast.
Everywhere.
Like at a children's show. It's not even like Beetlejuice porno version, right? Or like adults only. This is a kids show.
It's a kids show?
Well, I don't know that it's a family-friendly show.
Okay.
Right? And Beetlejuice itself, which I think was like PG rated,
pretty
family-friendly fare. Sure. Yeah.
I'll buy that.
And so, on a first date, you're going to let a guy juggle you around like that in public?
Right.
In public. I mean,
that's
do it in the car.
Yeah. I can probably fairly say I've never seen that in public before.
I have been to porno theaters, and I have never seen that.
Oh, my God. I can't believe her. And him.
It's just... anyway.
It's disgusting.
And that's although I will say, as much as I dislike her and abhor all of her opinions and all the things, like I could easily ground her down into nothing with my liberal viewpoint.
Yeah.
She has said a couple of funny things. And so it kills me to say this, but I do think it's funny that she was like, I should have checked his political affiliation, right? As if, of course, the fact that he's a liberal, like, that's why this happened. It's because he's a liberal.
He's a liberal. That's why.
I'm going to say this for Quinn. You knew who Lauren...
no question.
Yeah, you knew who she was. Like, I know who she was. And you went out on a date with her.
Why?
You are ejected from the Democratic Party. You are out of here.
Ejected from life.
Yeah, I mean, how could you?
How could you? Exactly. How could you? I mean, it's just appalling to think. And she hasn't. So her apology. She did put out an apology for her behavior. It's not her first apology for her behavior, as you might guess. She did apologize in July after being seen throwing away a tribute pin for one of the children killed in the Uvalde school shooting. And in November 2021, she issued an apology for anti-Muslim remarks that she made in reference to Representative Ilhan Omar, who's a Minnesota Democrat who is Muslim. So with that, I guess we'll read the apology. She did, as I said, apologize. She put out a statement, and it said, "The past few days have been difficult and humbling, and I'm truly sorry for the unwanted attention my Sunday evening in Denver has brought to the community. While none of my actions or words as a private citizen that night were intended to be malicious or meant to cause harm, the reality is they did, and I regret that. There's no perfect blueprint for going through a public and difficult divorce, which over the past few months has made for a challenging personal time for me and my entire family. I've tried to handle it with strength and grace as best I can, but I simply fell short of my values on Sunday. That's unacceptable, and I'm sorry. Whether it was the excitement of seeing a much-anticipated production or the natural anxiety of being in a new environment, I genuinely did not recall vaping that evening when I discussed the night's events with my campaign team while confirming my enthusiasm for the musical. Regardless of my belief, it's clear now that was not accurate. It was not my or my campaign's intention to mislead, but we do understand the nature of how this looks. We know we will have to work to earn your trust back, and it may not happen overnight, but we will do it. I'm deeply thankful to those in the 3rd District who have defended me and reached out this week and offered grace and support when I needed it the most. I've learned some humbling lessons these past few days, but I vow, moving forward, I will make you proud." And a day or so she added to her apology by saying, "It's been 20 years since I was in the dating scene, and back then there were not infrared cameras watching my every move. But it's a lesson learned. As I said, I'm truly humbled and apologize to my people and Colorado's 3rd District, those who I love." Ugh. Blech. I feel like I need to wash my mouth out.
It's the camera's fault. The camera should not have been there recording me.
I mean, it's totally okay to do what I do.
Just having some fun, flirty, sexual time, groping my boyfriend's junk in a family-friendly theatrical production. And, yeah.
I'm having a divorce, so it was the divorce's fault. And I was a private citizen, so you shouldn't be paying attention to what I'm doing when I'm a private citizen. And I really didn't remember vaping because I was so excited to see the Beetlejuice that I just forgot everything that I was doing. And, you know, I'll totally work really hard to earn your trust back. whatever.
All I can say is Colorado, if you guys reelect her, you richly deserve.
When did she come up for re-election? If she was elected in 2022, 2020? How many years are you in Congress? I don't remember. Man,
you know what? I should know that because I had an not American history. I had like a college level civics course just a few years ago. 40? Is it 40 years?
I think it's 2.
No, it's like 2 or 4.
Yeah, I think it's
or
2.
6.
So maybe we can get rid of her soon.
It's an even number that's less than 10 and more than 1.
This is her second term, so maybe they limit the terms. I'm not sure if they limit terms.
There's no term limit. Well, let me rephrase that. There's no term limit at the federal level that I'm aware of. There may be states that have their own term limits for senators and congresspeople. She's not a senator. Yet. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, right.
The way this country's going, sometimes I'm just like, sure, she could be senator. She could be president.
Oh my God. God forbid. That would be the worst. It wouldn't be the worst. It would be almost the worst. So this is a PR apology, obviously. She probably did have a heavy hand in it because I feel like there's some sort of personalized.
It's dumb enough. Yeah.
It's dumb enough. But let's look at it. Let's reluctantly look at.
Please, because I am only going to give this very low marks, right?
Okay.
But I feel like there were a lot of words there, and some of those words may tick some boxes on our list. Yes. And so, in fairness, as America's heroes, we should always be fair. So, in fairness to this horrid person, let's rank her apology appropriately using our metrics.
All right. So, was there an expression of regret? Yes. She said she was truly sorry. Was there an explanation of what went wrong? Well, there was an excuse. She blamed her divorce. And I guess she blamed the cameras too. So, no, not really. Was there an acknowledgement of responsibility? No. She said she didn't recall. She didn't remember. This, that, and the other thing. There was a declaration of repentance. There was sort of an offer of repair. She said vaguely, we will work to earn your trust back, but she didn't say how. Is she going to change her behavior? Doubtful.
She's going to stop dating Democrats.
She might stop dating Democrats.
Air quotes around dating.
Yeah, right. And was there a request for forgiveness? No. So on the face of it, I would give this apology a 5. However, knowing what I know about Lauren Boebert, I would give it a negative 7,000.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to say, I was like, it's a 0.5. It's a 0.5. It's not even a 1, right? But there were some things in there that did tick some of the boxes. And so I think it's a very average apology in general 5. And then because it's Lauren Boebert, I'm going to give it a negative 7,001.
So that's a negative 7,000.5.
So I've got a thing to share with you that is Boebert related.
Let's hear it.
So as I mentioned to you pre-show, I had a real hard time with this one because I just hate her. So it's not even that I hate her, right? It's I hate hypocrites. Yeah. I hate hypocrisy. It drives me fucking crazy, right? I would rather that you just say what it is that you want to say and be who you are and do all that and let me know what I'm dealing with, right? But when you're a fucking hypocrite, I just can't, especially when you hold a position of power, right? And your views impact and your decisions impact my life. Yes. So I had a hard time doing anything that was like Googling Lauren Boebert or listening to podcasts about Lauren Boebert or reading anything. At the minute I started, it was like, I can't. I can't. But I did. And I'm glad that I did this one. So I want your thoughts on this. This is from the Huffington Post. And it's Lauren Boebert's estranged husband blames himself for marriage failure. In a Facebook post, Jason, Jayson, that's not how you spell Jason, Boebert said he felt people should know the truth of our broken marriage and burden she has carried for too long.
My God.
The estranged husband of Representative Lauren Boebert, who's a Republican from Colorado, is speaking out in support of the controversial Congresswoman. It says he is the one to blame for the problems in the marriage. In May of 2023, Lauren and Jason announced they were getting divorced after nearly 18 years of marriage. They cited irreconcilable differences as the reason for the split. But Jason's offered some details of the split in, of course, a Facebook Messenger post. Facebook Messenger post? Jesus, dude. Okay, posted on Monday of this week and took responsibility for the shattered relationship. Jason's message began with a greeting to the people of Colorado's 3rd District, because that's how you start everything, and across the nation, before referring to deep concerns circulating and the attacks against Lauren, which has been seen as a possible reference to being kicked out of the Beetlejuice performance. Jason said he felt people should know the truth of our broken marriage and the burden she's carried for too long, and said he was devastated by the pain he has caused his wife. I take full responsibility for my actions, and I deeply regret the choices that I have made that led to the breakdown of our marriage. I was unfaithful to Lauren in so many ways. I should have always brought my best, just as she did. My actions were selfish and thoughtless, and I failed to consider the consequences they would ultimately have on the person I hold dearest in my heart. This has been a devastating divorce that I hold all responsibility for, he added. It upsets me that everyone believes she left me over fame or a new lifestyle. That is far from the truth. Then again, most of what's said about our family is untrue, except when it appears in court. Another battle we have faced far too long. Much of this is on me because the problem starts at the root. I am the root. The hurt I caused Lauren was not only significant, but also something she carried within her, bearing it deep inside while continuing to love people and our country fearlessly with a smile each day. Cool. Jason said he has embarked on a journey of self-reflection and personal growth since the separation, and he's going to become a better man now that he's no longer married to Lauren Boebert. He then addressed his estranged wife and said, if you're reading this, please know that I am dedicated to doing everything in my power to rebuild the trust that has been shattered. I stand behind you. You are the hardest working person I know, selfless and overflowing with love. I hate the attacks that are coming your way. In part, this is my fault, and you don't deserve this. Jason then said, then asked people reading his post to show grace and mercy towards Lauren in this troubling season, and she deserves a chance to earn your forgiveness and trust again. He added, I have broken her down in so many ways, but she will come out stronger as she always does, and so will I. Wow. So I'm guessing somebody's getting alimony, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's getting some money somewhere. What?
Who wrote that? That's my first thought.
Well, I can only guess that some angels flew down from heaven and handed this to him.
They must have.
They heard Lauren's tears.
That doesn't sound like the words of a oil driller or whatever he is. And who's been accused of assault.
I mean, what the fuck? I'm sorry. I've broken up with many people, and it's always their fault.
Oh, always. But never have they said anything like that. Usually it's like, it's your fault.
Yeah, it's stupid. Morons. That's why I broke up with you, because you're dumb. You think this is my fault? It's yours. Anyway.
Yeah, how weird.
Very weird. And so all I can think of is, like, there's got to be some kind of a money deal, right? And, like, hey, you don't say anything about me, and I'm just always great, and I'm the hardest working congressperson there is, and you keep that line of PR spinning, like some metaphors there, and I'll make sure you get some money.
Wow.
This is where her cash is only coming from being Lauren Boebert now. There's no restaurant, and who's going to hire her?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Fox News.
Probably. I could see that. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So, horrible person. Horrid. You want to hear about some other people that have been thrown out of a theater?
Yeah.
All right. So that's where I went. It's short. It's not super long. Let's start with John Wilkes Booth. Hi, I did that. That's my joke. Presidential assassinations are funny. Okay, here's one. Happened in England. And I will not do an English accent, but it is killing me not to. A touring production of a stage version of The Bodyguard, which was a Whitney Houston film in the 1980s, early 90s, right? Was brought to a halt and canceled in Manchester, England on a Friday night in early April of 2023 after patrons would not stop singing along with the show's musical numbers. The house lights came up during the climactic number, I Will Always Love You. 2 women were forcibly pulled out of the theater by security, and several police cars, because it's England, arrived to oversee the evacuation of the theater after what patrons on social media described as fights in the aisle and even a mini riot.
Wow.
The show had already been temporarily halted once during the first act because the same group had been doing some sing-alongs with the musical numbers, and this is apparently it's not a sing-along production. But then the show resumed. Later, in the last 10 minutes of the final act, the show was put on pause again when its star Pussycat Dolls member Melody Thornton, which is a great name, but also I think that's a name from Scruples by Judith Krantz. I'm positive of it, so it's got to be a fake name. Pussycat Dolls member Melody Thornton attempted to sing the climactic song made famous in the movie by Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You, over the sound of tuneless howling, which was coming from the audience members. At that point, the show was officially called off. And then audience members tweeted, now I will too, because this was Manchester, so I get to do this.
Okay.
Went to the Palace Theatre I can't do it. In Manchester to watch The Bodyguard, and a bunch of entitled pricks started singing over the lead during the final song. A riot broke out, the show was canceled, and the police were called, wrote Red Army, 1878. Let's see. They've had to stop the show again during the finale because of people shouting, screaming, and being incredibly disruptive. Just unbelievably disrespectful to the actors. And they're refusing to leave. This is horrendous. Never seen anything like it. Let's see here.
Wow.
When did this happen? I didn't write it down, but I think, it was 2023. No, 2022. Okay, so an attorney was kicked out of Radio City Music Hall after the venue used facial recognition technology and identified her as she was taking her daughter and a Girl Scout troop to see a performance of the Rockettes. So in New York, the Rockettes do a big Christmas production, and it's super famous, and it's one of those New York things that Americans like to go and do. You go see the Christmas tree. Did we do that ice skating thing when we went to New York?
I don't think it wasn't that cold.
Yeah, you're right. It wasn't. We went this summer. Anyway, so this lady, Kelly Conlon, a senior associate with New Jersey personal injury firm Davis, Saperstein, and Salomon, and the firm is representing a client that's suing a restaurant that's owned by the same parent company that owns Radio City Music Hall, right?
Oh, yeah, so that's right. I remember this.
What's going on. So she just happens to work as an attorney at the firm, a firm that is suing the parent company of Radio City Music Hall. So they're not suing Radio City Music Hall, parent company, right? And security guards approached her and they asked for identification as soon as she arrived. And they said, sorry, you're not allowed in. We've got a policy that says any attorneys that are in active litigation against one of our companies can't use any of our venues.
Wow.
So she had to wait outside and was horribly embarrassed. And let's see. And I will say, I'll just point back to a recent one where somebody was not kicked out of a theater. And that would be Will Smith for walking on stage and slapping a performer, right? And that seems like a reason to kick somebody out of a theater.
Yeah, totally.
But it didn't happen then. And that's what I got for bad behaviors in theaters and people being removed.
Wow.
It was hard to find anything because you Google anything about people, theater. Lauren Boebert. Lauren Boebert.
Everywhere, Lauren Boebert.
She's the fucking dictionary definition of kicked out of a theater.
She's the queen.
She is
the queen of bad behavior.
Worst. Not a fan.
She is literally the worst. Okay, so let's see. Do we have an apology expected, or who's sorry now this week?
I've got a short one, and I'm not quite certain about it, but there's a government shutdown coming.
There is?
And, it's got until September 30th to get a budget passed, and the 5 extremists, of whom Lauren Boebert is one, the 5 extremists that are holding Congress hostage, are refusing to sign anything. And Kevin McCarthy, the speaker, had mapped out a deal with Biden, the president, and no, they're not going to do it. You know why? Because you're working with the Democrats, and we don't like that, and we just want to tear the country down and start all over again. Freedom. There wasn't enough blood spilt in 1776. We need some more.
Wow.
And so I don't know who the apology will be coming from. It will not be from the Republican extremist, and it will not be from Kevin McCarthy for not being able to control this faction. I guess it's going to be from the Democrats for not being able to prevent this from happening. Apology expected from the Democratic Party for the government shutdown caused by Lauren Boebert and company. And she's not the ringleader of that. I know she wishes she was.
Yeah.
God. All right. Do you have anything better, brighter, nicer?
Well, I have something different.
Good.
So, did you hear about Hassan Minhaj, the comedian?
I love Hassan Minhaj.
Well,
no.
I have an apology expected from him. So, he's admitted to making up stories he tells on stage about racial discrimination.
That's fine.
He became famous in 2017 with a show called Homecoming King, and then went on to host a political talk show on Netflix called Patriot Act.
Which was
I've never seen either of these, and I never heard of him before I came upon the story.
My finger's up in the air, and it's been in a big circle because I am making a giant point here, and it's going to be on target, and I'm zeroing in and point. He is the next Jon Stewart.
Is he?
He is.
I don't know. He's told fake stories. He said he was threatened at a Saudi Arabian embassy, received a white powder in the mail that fell on his daughter, and he said he saw Jared Kushner sit in a chair reserved for an imprisoned Saudi activist. All of those were made up. In his defense, this is a funny defense in my opinion, he said his stories are based on emotional truths, and emotional truth is more important than factual truth.
That's true. Okay. The Greeks have a word for it. It's not Eurydice. It's not there's a word for truthiness. And so as long as the emotional core is true, that's why most ancient Greeks didn't believe in a literal Zeus, but the idea of a Zeus, because there's a core truth there. Anyway, I'll shut up.
Very interesting.
Find that
some
word
of the folks involved, however, in the fake stories have received online threats as a result. Minhaj has also been accused of gender discrimination, sex-based harassment, and retaliation on the set of the Patriot Act in a case that was settled out of court.
That's where I was afraid the apology was. So when you were like, he made up stories, I was like...
You're like, I don't care.
Okay, that's all right. Yeah, as long as he wasn't handsy. But all right, there it is.
I mean, he's a man, so that's what's going to happen if you're a man, mostly. But one thing that he did go ahead.
I was just going to say, all right, one, please ask your husband, right, how often he thinks of the Roman Empire.
I did ask him.
Fuck, what did he say?
He said not very often.
Oh, God damn it, Brent. Honest. It is every day for me.
Really? Well, I believe that. I believe that. What about James?
I haven't asked him. Well,
you should.
And I will now after that. Actually, we're having brunch with friends, so I will ask him and Dave. So okay. All right. Sorry, I just had to jump in there.
That's funny. I was just going to add that so Hassan Minhaj apologized last year previously because he went on Jeopardy and apparently he made an ass out of himself just being a jerk on the show. And he apologized for that in what I think was kind of a funny apology. He said, "I'm sorry I desecrated an American institution. I'm sorry I ripped your 7 p.m. TV pacifier out of your geriatric mouth. And most importantly, I'm sorry for trying to make Jeopardy fun." So yeah, I'm.
That's great. Goal A+.
I don't know how I feel about Hassan Minhaj. If he did discriminate against someone on the basis of gender or harass someone, I'm totally opposed to him. Otherwise, I'm 50-50.
Well, does it help that he's sexy? Because big plus points there.
Is he? I saw a picture, but I didn't really pay much attention.
It's not in terms of his appearance, but more just the core being that he presents on stage.
His emotional truth.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I respond to. Also, he's funny. I mean, that apology for the Jeopardy thing.
Yeah,
10.
That was pretty good.
Solid 10, 100%.
Yeah. All right, good. Well, so we can end on that uplifting note, that positive note, with a 10th.
And with a smile and a laugh.
And we'll probably be back next week, although who knows? It's impossible to say what's ever going to happen around here. We're such jet setters that one of us might be off doing something next week, but we'll definitely have a repeat show if we need one. And
oh no, because I forgot.
What?
So faithful fans will note that the last 2 weeks there weren't any encore episodes uploaded, nor anything done. Right? And that's because this episode that we're in now is episode 149.
Oh my gosh.
And so episode 150 is our next episode. And every 50 episodes, we have a commemorative episode where we award ourselves prizes or we do something great for
us. And what are we going to do for 150, Theo?
I don't know. It's 150 episodes.
That's a lot of talking.
It's a lot of smartness is what that is.
Smartness.
It's a lot of smartness. Preserved on the internet.
A lot
You're
of
welcome.
brains. Cool. All right, so we'll all see next week what we're doing for our 150th.
We're gonna have, we'll have to do something. So yes, everybody, thank you for listening. Have a wonderful everything. We'll
Stay
do
cool,
our
cucumbers, and don't trip potato chips.
Smell you later, Tater.
Smell you later, Tater. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Apologies Accepted, the podcast.
You can find links to the articles and the sources in the show notes.
To submit an apology or find out more, visit us at apologiesaccepted.net, where you can also find our merchandise.
We're on Twitter at Apologies Accepted.
And on Instagram at apologies.accepted.
You can support our important work at Patreon.com/Apologies Accepted.
And fuck Facebook.
Bye.
Bye.